Welcome back for another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. Today we're on episode 33, Letting Go to Lead Better, the Law of Trade-Offs. And so today I'm going to be talking about something I've brought up a few times in conversation, something that I have difficulty with, and that is letting go of control. But I specifically want to talk about how that connects to the law of trade-offs that John Maxwell talks about in his 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. So I mentioned to you guys that I would be bringing up some of these laws in my solo episodes. And I pulled the text again and refreshed my memory on the law of trade-offs and how he describes them, because I was curious about some of the things that he mentioned that you must give up in order to grow up or go up. And as I was considering that, I thought, well, this actually connects directly with my need to give up control and some recent events in my life. So I didn't make this a solo episode. I actually have with me today Matthew Baer, who is the producer of the podcast. So you might hear him typically come through the microphone sitting outside of the studio. But today he's actually joining me in the studio, and I'm really hoping he doesn't make me regret this, because he's already talked about how he's going to be in competition with Erica to get on more episodes. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Matthew Baer. Thank you for being here, Matthew.
Absolutely. Today, everyone's going to learn why I am normally on the other side of the studio.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so the reason why I brought you in on this conversation is I was thinking about, obviously everything connects back to leadership, and there are several layers where you're involved here. So I want to talk about the leadership aspect of the law of trade-offs, but I also want to talk about what recently happened and what you were able to successfully pull off, which had to do with giving up control. But what I want to talk about today is, what if the key to becoming a better leader is not by doing more, but actually doing less. And I know a lot of people, we tend to take on more and more and more because we want to grow, we want to get more done, we want to be more effective. But what if it's actually the opposite, and we have to give up things and do less in order to be more effective and grow? So that's going to be kind of the theme that goes through our conversation today. Just give you a heads up. Okay, I know you can fly by the seat of your pants and can talk about things on the fly. That's not how I roll, so I'm just going to let you know in advance. So before we talk about it, is there anything you'd like to share about yourself and your background, so at least the audience, maybe for the first time, knows something about this mystery person?
How far back do you want me to go here?
Whatever you want to share, Matthew.
Well, I started my first job at the age of 14 working in a feed mill. I worked there for 2 years and then went into family business for a while as a mechanic in my grandfather's repair shop. My grandfather was a firefighter, and he was very involved in the volunteer fire department, which then got me involved in over time. Which then led to a career as a paid firefighter. I was in the fire service for around 10 years. Then I got out of that and I'd actually started a lawn care and landscaping business while I was working for the fire department. Then a little over a year ago, got out of the lawn care business. And I am now in online marketing, mostly with social media. Quite a lot of it now is in this podcast, is a big part of my job now. But I
hope you get paid well for that, by the way.
Yeah, not enough. Not nearly enough. But it's fun seeing how this podcast has morphed from the beginning. It's been a lot of fun in here with some of your guests. Others we're not going to mention.
He's talking about Erica.
Are not as much fun, but...
So just so you guys know, I don't know what the hostility is between Matthew and Erica, but when I come into the office, they leave each other nasty notes. I move things so the other one can't find it. Matthew even decided to play a trick on her recently and pretend that we were moving out, and he went as far as because of her behavior, it was going to cause this entire situation where we were going to get kicked out of our office rental. And so he actually gathered up our belongings and started putting boxes of stuff by the office door so that when she arrived, he could act really upset and say that we got kicked out. So these are the things that happen here between Matthew and Erica. So just so you guys understand.
Have to keep it fun and interesting.
Yeah, that's what it is. You could definitely do that. So you're the reason the podcast exists in the first place. So I'll mention that, and that's why you have to do so much work on it, because it's your fault.
I'm not quite sure how it all gets blamed on me. I definitely had suggested the idea to you. Mm-hmm. The last thing I ever expected was, yeah, that's a great idea. We should start this in 30 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we know why I did that. Why did I do that?
Well, there's your answer, and then there's my theory, which is just that you're out of your mind at times. But please enlighten us.
Yeah, no, you know why. I've said it. If you listen to these episodes, which you have to do to edit them.
I have to listen to every single episode twice in the editing process. So I'm sorry. I hear your voice daily, and when I'm going back through the episodes and having to listen to it twice over,
you're not really hearing the content.
I'm tuning a lot of it out for my own sanity.
No, it's because I knew I wouldn't do it unless I committed to someone else, because I wouldn't want to disappoint them. So that was my way of putting it out there and forcing myself to do it without overthinking because of the perfectionism.
The moment that you said we were posting it on social media was the moment I knew we are not backing out of this.
Yeah, exactly. We follow through on our commitments. That's one of our core values here. Okay, so thank you for sharing a little bit of your background, and thank you for all your work on the podcast. It is a lot. And I'm serious when I say, I just show up and talk. Well, there's a little more than that. Of course, I have to prep and make sure that I have a theme or a vision for the episode. But other than that, Matthew does all the work. So thank you for what you do on that. Okay, so back to the original topic. All right, so it's kind of like the previous episode where I morphed two things together, where I was talking about selecting a word or theme of the year, and then I talked about the law of intentionality, because intentionality happens to be my word all the time. Mm-hmm. So today I am merging two concepts, and that is the importance of giving up control. Mm-hmm. And the law of trade-offs. So again, it's a combo. So before we dig into the leadership side of it, I think it would help to have a little bit of the personal story so they understand why this is so fresh and relevant right now. So I, at the beginning of last year, being January of 2024, set aside 2 weeks at the end of the year that I committed to myself that I was going to take 2 weeks off. I tried really hard throughout the year to protect that time. And then ultimately, you had at some point decided that you wanted to plan something during one of those 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So we all know that I am most comfortable when I have a plan. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you have done a really good job of, on weekends, having these adventure days where you started to kind of take the reins and take control back. And plan these random weekend trips for us where I have no idea what the destination is. Okay. What led you to do that? Let's start there. Why did you decide that was a good idea?
Because, one, as Caleb's getting older, I wanted to make sure that we were doing things as a family intentionally.
No, he's using his word against me.
And the other side of it was I truly had no plan. I knew that I wanted to do something together that was fun. So the term that I came up with was we're going on an adventure, because I didn't have a clue of where we were going or what we were going to do. And I played it off as though, because I knew that someone wouldn't just accept, we're going to hop in the car and drive around till I figure it out. So it was, we're going to go on an adventure and you'll find out when we get there.
Yeah, so this has been like a build-up over time, because you've been practicing this on me for months of on the weekend, get in the car, and you didn't reveal for a little while after we had gone on a couple of trips that you usually didn't even know where we were going until we got there. You just started driving and hoped that something came to you, which I find to be hilarious, because it is the exact opposite of me, who would research every possible scenario, and we know what it would be like. So you've practiced this on me all along. How would you say I've done with those adventure days and giving up control in that scenario?
You were certainly skeptical at first. However, after I managed to make it look like I knew what I was doing for a few times in a row, you trusted the process.
Trust, that's a key word. We're going to come back to that one in a little bit, actually. Because, and I will say from my side, I did start to realize that it was nice to not have to make decisions for once, because I do get decision fatigue, and that's why it's been so helpful to have Erica as well, because she takes so many decisions off my plate, and I can trust her to make a decision that will positively impact the business or positively impact my clients, and I don't have to put a ton of thought into it. And that's why I was so careful about bringing someone in. I needed to trust that when I passed the baton on, that I was truly giving up decision making. So it took a couple times, and then I trusted that we weren't going to get lost, we weren't going to run out of fuel, that you weren't going to take me out in the woods and kill me. I trusted.
I haven't at this point, so.
Okay, so fast forward, that's been going on. I don't know how long you've been doing that at this point. Maybe 4 to 6 months.
Something like that.
Okay. Back to the last 2 weeks of the year. When did you decide that you were going to take me on a surprise trip?
Probably 3 or 4 months before we went on the trip.
Okay. All right. So Matthew started talking about passports more and more and more and more. He kept bringing up, do you have a passport? Has it expired? He's asking these questions. And then he started talking about his passport. And, I wasn't really paying any attention because I didn't have any intentions of going out of the country. So I might have been a little disengaged in the conversations. Is that accurate?
Disengaged, more like completely didn't care.
So what did you have to do because of that?
Basically, I just had to say, we're going to get our passports. We need them.
Actually, you didn't even say that we need them. You said that we might need them for something.
Yeah, I can't remember if I had revealed that we were going on I guess at that point you knew we were going somewhere, but you didn't know where.
Well, you had told me that those specific days on my calendar could not have anything. And I'm like, well, duh, they don't have anything because I already blocked them off. But I would likely fill them up with, other things.
Yes, which is why I had to reach out to Erica in the first place and let her know what was going on so that she could help to play defense in protecting that time.
Yes, she did a great job of that. All right, so understand that this is for the audience, not you. You understand this. It was very challenging to be told that we were going on a trip and I didn't know where. And when I go on a trip just with my mom to the same exact location every year, I pack so many bags that she will make me remove bags when I arrive at her house to load up and say, this is ridiculous. We're going for whatever it is, 4 days. We're going for 5 days. No one needs that much stuff for that period of time. Put some back. So that is when I know where I'm going. I go there every year. I know what I wear. Everything is clear. Now this, I had no idea. I didn't know if we were going to be in warm weather or cold weather, which was like a massive question mark because, or just like moderate temperatures, right? Do I pack like my winter boots? Are we going hiking? Do I need running shoes? Do I need to dress up and have heels? Do I need to look nice? Do I need a bathing suit? All of these questions, as you guys can imagine, it was very challenging for me because I was trying to respect the fact that he wanted to surprise me, but at the same time, I needed to know what to pack. And my mom had the genius idea of, well, Sierra, why don't you pack 2 separate bags, one for warm weather, one for cold weather, and once you get there, once you figure out what it is, you just don't unload the temperature that you don't need, which I thought was really smart. But yes, we packed up our stuff, and I had way too much. He still made me narrow it down and condense. I'm excited. I want to fast forward to the part where you were unprepared. I just want to say that.
I was absolutely not prepared for any of this. I was making it up as I went the whole time. Because even down to figuring out what you were going to take, I wasn't exactly sure what all we were going to get into. I knew where we were going. I knew it was going to be cold. I was pretty sure the place had a pool. So I was trying to play into that to be like, well, you're definitely going to want to take your bathing suit and trying to lead you down the path of maybe it is somewhere warm. In fact, my parents were even trying to convince you that we were going to go to Cuba.
Okay, when you say Cuba and I see Kramer over your shoulder, I can literally picture him smoking a Cuban.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I went along with it. Were you surprised at how well I handled it?
Yeah. I was surprised at how well you handled it. At the same time, you also were getting, I could tell you were getting frustrated with it as well.
Well, just because, it goes back to fear of unpreparedness, right? So what if we arrived and I didn't have the stuff that we needed and I didn't have money to go out and buy the things that I needed? So there was fear. I'm not going to lie. Okay, but we did it, right? We got packed. We left that morning. And what happened, Matthew, when we got about an hour away, which I didn't even know which cardinal directions here. I had no idea where we were even traveling because the boy was taking all back roads and I did not know where we were. And I did not pull up Google Maps at all. So truly no idea of the destination. 1 hour in, what happened?
I may or may not have forgotten something very important back at the house.
Okay, like what?
Might have been my passport.
The passport.
That I worked so hard to make sure we got in time. Had to pay extra to ensure that it got there on time because I didn't even make the decision that we were for sure going to need that until 2-3 weeks before Christmas.
Yeah. So all of this is a perfect example of how he can, I am the list maker. Did you make a list in preparation for the trip? Was there a packing list or anything anywhere?
No.
I do not understand how you function.
There was a list in my head.
Yeah, well, things get lost in there for me.
I know there's been a few times where you make lists constantly and there's still things that get forgotten.
Well, no one said my list is always going to be perfectly complete, but it's better than forgetting my passport on a trip in which you specifically rushed. We expressed and paid a ton of extra money to get these passports in time. Anyway, I was so calm. I laughed and smiled and said, well, we just get to see the same scenery again. But of course, you didn't know this, but inside I was freaking out because I'm like, does this put us a couple of hours behind schedule?
Yeah, because I also kind of led you to believe that we had to be somewhere at a certain point.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So anyway, I'm going to fast forward a ton now. We eventually, much later in the day, arrived in, where did we go?
Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, New York.
Which I do want to also point out the fact that we had been in New York for probably a good 45 minutes to an hour before someone knew.
Yes, this is true because I was being productive on the ride. Are we surprised? I was doing life focus. I was creating an updated 10-year plan for my life because what else would you do on this trip? So that's why I didn't notice the signage that said I was confused. I had no idea Pennsylvania was so big. It felt like, I was like, we're still in Pennsylvania? No, we were in New York. So Buffalo, New York, guys, it was a really exciting trip for me. I gave up control and I was able to experience Niagara Falls on both the U.S. side and the Canadian side. I highly recommend the Canadian side, honestly. But I just wanted to add in there that going back to decision fatigue, that was a really, really hard year for me. And I was like pretty much just done and I didn't even know how I was going to survive. And so I can admit that it was a relief that I didn't have to make a ton of decisions and that I could just like give up control for a little bit. Yes, I'm admitting that.
Not for lack of trying to regain some control throughout the time.
What do you mean?
Oh, there were certainly a few times where I had to steer you away from one thing or another because you were trying.
Well, if it has to do with your driving, of course I'm going to try and control that.
Oh gosh.
Somebody's gotta. What? So I just let me compliment myself for a second because I think I did do a good job of giving up control. And you were nice and you let me make choices about things like, are we going here or here? But ultimately, I still wanted you to decide things. It was fun. Moral of the story is every day got better and better. We experienced fun things, and that could have never happened the way that it did had I kept trying to control the situation, or if it would have been in my control to begin with, because I would have said, I'm exhausted, I'm not going on a trip, I can't get away. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I would have come up with lots of reasons why it couldn't happen. So thank you for the trip.
Absolutely.
The first trip we can put in our adventure book. He got me an adventure book for Christmas, like the movie Up. That adventure book, it's super cute. So it's the first trip in there. And I feel really bad because I haven't even posted any pictures online. No one even knows that we went anywhere and did anything because I didn't slow down long enough to do that.
Well, see, that's how you can tell who your truest friends are. The ones that have been listening to the podcast would know.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good test. Well, I know Will Lawrence is going to be marked off the list. Yeah. He's not going to have any idea, but at least Jay and Seth will know. Beth Steitley, I know she's going to hear this. Anyway.
Which we definitely need a shout out to Bev here because I heard through the rumor mill that her favorite part of your podcast is when I interject.
Now that's twisted. You twisted
a
words.
Big reason why
that is not what she said.
We had to have me in because I am Bev's favorite part of the podcast.
That is not what I told him. That is not what I said at all. But if that's what you heard, sure. No, I think it's awesome that Bev listens to all of them, and she has such a short drive, so she does them in little bits. So when we have the long episodes, it takes her lots of drives to get through one. But anyway, okay. So you have to give up things to grow, to go up, as John says. John Maxwell, Papa John. So as I was reflecting on everything, I was reflecting on the number of times I feel I've had to give up one thing in order to get something else. But it was like I had to give up the short term in order to support like a better long term. Does that make sense when I say that? Like I've had to give up the short term. I want to go through the Dunkin' drive-through. Silly example, but you guys know that it's true. Give that up because that's an additional $5 I can put towards my debt, right? So that is a perfect example of there's so many different things, whether it's personal life or business, where you have to give up something in order to achieve that long-term vision. So I'm curious for you. When I first met you, you owned the lawn care and landscaping business, and you had a big team. You were managing a lot of people, and I'm curious when it comes to control, your need to control, what that looked like and how it felt to give up control as you brought on new people and really couldn't manage everything on your own.
Yeah, I mean, that started kind of naturally. When I started the lawn care and landscaping business, it was just me, myself, and I, only having a couple of lawns. But then as it grew, it got to a point where it's like, well, I can't do this on my own. It's going to take me too long. I'm not going to be able to take care of all my customers. I need help. And as it continued to grow, the need for more help to continue to service, it was kind of a natural growth of more clients, I need more help. Bigger clients, different type of client, we need more help. And before I knew it, it went from myself with one or two other people to a team of 10 to 12, where now we've got multiple crews running. I've got an operations manager who's overseeing our ground crews while I'm back at the office and overseeing office staff, sales reps. And the control side for me wasn't there. There's always a certain amount of need to control, but if you're able to understand the big picture of what you're wanting to achieve and knowing that you're not able to do it all by yourself, it takes people, it takes that team to accomplish those goals. For me, I wanted to continue growing. I wanted to take on more and more clients. I wanted more and more crews. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that without adding more to the team, letting go of more control. And each step through that process, it was first letting go of, okay, I'm not going to be on the ground crew anymore because I've got other guys who are going to mow for me. I'm going to focus on making sure the landscape is taken care of. Then it was, okay, now I've got a landscape crew. I need to focus on where the next client's coming from. Then the next step was, okay, I need a sales rep so that we can have someone else making sure that our regular clients are still coming in while I'm focusing on the next bigger, better thing. And for us, that was the commercial contracts, and we were getting into the federal space. So each step in that process required me to let go of control a little more each time. And it truly came back to, if this is what your goal is, you have to be able to let go of the control to get there.
Yeah, so like the first decisions that you were able to give up control over, what types of decisions did you start letting others make?
I mean, very first it came down to just understanding, like, okay, you guys know how to cut grass to my standards. You guys know how to trim or landscape to my standards. And as I would see they're able to do it properly, then, okay, let go of that. And then over time, having an operations manager who was able to oversee that and trusting that he was going to do the right thing of maintaining that, letting go and going, I don't have to worry about that. I've got someone else who it's their job to make sure that that quality stays there.
So it's really empowering them, making sure they have proper resources. They've seen it done the way that you expect for it to be done. It's very clear. Like, that's the part, I mean, when it goes down to delegation, and I talk about this all the time with my clients, there is a specific process to set you up for success when delegating. You don't just pick a random person and say, hey, do this thing, right? You have to really identify, the strengths of the person. Where do they stand today? Have you given them proper training? Do they have resources? How often are you checking in? But not to the point where it's micromanagement, right? You're letting them make mistakes and learn from them. And they don't already have to have a strength in that area. You're wanting to grow them, right?
Well, so it also comes back to there has to be a lot of communication, because in all of that process, you actually helped me in finding and selecting the first operations manager that I had. That was a big step for me, because that was where I was no longer really owner operator anymore, and I was transitioning more into a CEO type role. That was a really big step that made a massive difference. With the operations manager, it took a lot of training, yes, but also openness, conversation of this is where I want to go, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it, so that he was also able to at least have a general understanding of what my big picture was looking like.
Yeah.
No one's going to ever be able to fully understand your own big picture, but you have to select the right people to offer that information to, so that they know how to come alongside you and work with you and reach that goal. It's not always going to work. It's not always going to work well. Then this is one of the areas where I said to you many times of it's really tough when you're in that CEO type position and you bring someone on like that. You have to also make sure that in that conversation there is still an understanding, because when you have someone that's able to see that picture and come alongside you and help you, you really want to be their friend. You really like that person. At the same time, you have to be careful that the understanding of the difference between a boss or leader versus a friend, that there's a very thin line that you have to manage there. And once you cross that, it'll make everything much worse.
Well, I think, and we don't have to go into all of it, but in general, I think once you cross that line, the respect, that respect in the relationship changes a little bit. But no, I think that makes sense, how challenging it was to kind of make that hire. But, from outsider looking in, I knew that you were making fewer decisions, but then I think about the quality, right? So that's where trust comes in, because for me, for example, with my perfectionist tendencies, I have a certain expectation of how my business is presented to the community, right? And so bringing someone in that's going to support me and represent me and have my business next to their name, I have to feel like no matter where they are, they're representing me well, and I can trust that. And so same thing for you, can you trust that this person is going to see your vision and understand your definition of excellence, right? And strive for that whether you're there or not, right? When they're managing the teams, are they becoming friends with the team, right? In order to try and motivate them to succeed? Is there a line being crossed there? So How did you work through that?
Again, that came back to a lot of conversation and discussion about that exact thing of, look, I like you. You're a great person. I want to be your friend. With that particular individual, while we were working together, he really seemed to understand that line, and he towed it very well. We definitely ran into some issues with some other employees that I had over the years where that line got blurred, and a lot of times that ended poorly, just because once you have to let someone go that you're friends with, it's very rare that you end up remaining friends after that. That's not always the case. In fact, there's one individual who I did have to let him go. He was a friend before I hired him, and he's still a friend now. But it's not often that... Hi, Caleb.
The little man just came out outside the glass window of the studio. He's waving. Hi, buddy.
It's not often that you're able to maintain that. So a lot of it really is communication, setting your expectations, and committing yourself to understanding that you have to lead the example of what that's to look like. And the moment you overstep or just cross that line a little bit, you're only setting yourself up for failure.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with that. I had mentioned decision fatigue earlier. Did you experience that with your business?
I don't know that there came a point with my business, with the lawn care and landscaping business, where I just had absolute fatigue. I don't know if it was decision fatigue, but
that was physical exhaustion.
There was physical, mental, spiritual exhaustion throughout that entire process, which is one of the reasons that led me to getting out of it. We grew very fast, which had many good things and bad things. I'm very grateful for a lot of the experiences I had through it. I learned a lot. I had met some really great people and a lot of really great people who worked for me. But it was exhausting on a regular basis, especially going through COVID. COVID was an absolute nightmare for a business like mine, and it wasn't like it was for other people, because we were considered essential. We were still allowed to go out and work. We were shut down in the state of Pennsylvania for one day, and that was it. But from the employee side, the expectations changed so much from pre-COVID to post-COVID. And of course, pay changes, cost of living went up massively. And so there just became a whole new aspect that we had to look at things differently. We had to adjust our pricing massively and completely rebuild from what we were doing and how we were doing it to what it was going to look like in the post-COVID world. From a management side, with that many employees, anybody who made it through COVID can probably appreciate where I'm coming from with this. The difference is night and day. Prior to COVID, we were hiring many kids that were in high school, just out of high school. And at that point, very rarely would a high school kid with no experience even expect to make more than $12, $13, maybe $14 an hour. Post-COVID, I had several kids who applied that were still in high school, and I would have had to work around their schedules, insist that they couldn't take less than $17 an hour. The mindset significantly changed, and unfortunately, because we ran into hiring issues as well. Prior to COVID, it was pretty easy to find new employees. Post-COVID, it was a struggle. And for a business like mine, we were dealing with a lot of, if you can at least show up to work, I don't care what your qualifications are. I don't care about anything other than I just
manpower.
Need you to be here. And so that was another big problem, because then the next step was our quality. Well, if we're willing to hire anybody regardless of their experience, now we need to refocus on training and making sure that we're able to maintain that quality. And at times, we definitely failed. I wish I could say that wasn't the case, but we did. We absolutely would try to go back and make sure that was taken care of, repaired, whatever. I know I comped quite a few lawns over the next year or two during and post-COVID, because we just didn't have the manpower to get everything done properly. And it was just a mad scramble, because so many people still needed their lawns cut, and there was just no one out there available to work.
Yeah. So I don't know how much of that was necessarily, you might not have thought that it was that at the time, but, me looking in, the decision fatigue was the constant. Like, if you were getting a phone call, there's an issue out on this site, well, what do we do about it? And I could see you wanting them to be able to solve the problems and not have to reach out to you for questions every time, right?
Yeah.
So I could see that happening. For me, I remember as a classroom teacher, imagine a room full of 25, 30 kids, and they're constantly wanting things, asking things, right? Can I do this? What about this? What about that? That was decision fatigue of deciding how to respond in every situation, answer every question. So as a business owner, I know that it happens a lot. And I go back to what I said at the very beginning of the episode, but what if, making fewer decisions, being that person to make fewer decisions actually allows you to propel forward and grow more, because you're tapping into other resources, people that maybe ultimately would approach things more creatively, would be more innovative. I know for me, being very process driven and analytical, sometimes I miss the creative solutions. Like, for example, that Erica would come up with things that she sees that probably seem so obvious to her that I would have never thought of. So I think that I have really learned, as I've given up control, as I have trusted her and empowered her to make decisions on behalf of the business, that I've been very happy. I've been very satisfied. It's taken a lot of pressure off. And I truly, when I said to her in that episode at the end of the year that I could not have achieved the things in my business last year without her, I truly meant that. But I'm curious, from your perspective, focusing on my business for a minute, have you seen any shift once I brought Erica on to support me and I started relinquishing some of the decision-making power? Be honest. It's okay if you don't see a difference.
No, there's a difference. One being your office is dirtier now, but...
Oh. So that confetti cannon that she blew up in here, we just left it, and she came in to clean the other day, and Matthew, of course, had to come in and find the little pieces that she missed. I knew he would find a way during the episode to reference the confetti.
But no, there's been some positive things as well, because just in your scheduling side, being able to pass that off to Erica.
My goodness.
When someone reaches out to you asking to meet, that used to be, I'm trying to think the best way to put this. That used to be something that would stress you out so much, of explaining to someone why you wouldn't be able to meet with them. Even though it was a really simple answer, you didn't like having to do that, because you care about people. And so just having Erica as that buffer has been a huge help to you.
Yeah, she is the protector of the schedule.
Hence why I had to reach out to her to protect that last week of the year.
Yeah. No, and you're right. Because I always felt like I had to give a reason. If someone said, hey, you've heard me laugh aloud when someone will message me and be like, hey, you available tomorrow at 2?
Yeah.
And I will laugh out loud. At this point, I laugh. I used to get really upset because then I'd write a novel explaining all the reasons why I couldn't make it.
Yeah. And for those of you who think that she is able to just drop everything and meet tomorrow at 2, I'm first in that line. I'm just saying, and I can't get that slot on her schedule. So I months, again, like 4 to 6 months in advance, I had planned this trip, and I had to schedule with Erica 3 months before to let her know to protect that time. So that's coming from me. If any one of you figures out how to get through that faster, please let me know right away.
There have been a couple people a few times who just when something happens to drop off, they reach out and ask, and I'll be like, well, this thing just dropped off, but don't tell anyone that I let you take that slot. No, but so you do notice a difference when it comes to scheduling. Yes, that's a huge relief to me too. But my hope is that I continue to allow more control to, allow others to take control, and me to have seen what it is like on the personal side of, I gave up control. That was a blast. I had such a fun trip. It was so memorable. I have trouble remembering things. But I happen to think those are going to be core memories I'm referencing up right now. I know I'm a dork. But those are going to be core memories because it was so different for me to just experience something without thinking about work. Right? Mm-hmm. Same thing, I'm not going to lie. I was sitting in church this morning, and my mind kept drifting to work-related stuff, and I pull my mind back over to Pastor Jeff, and then 2 seconds later, I'm thinking about what I have to do for work tomorrow. And it's as a business owner, you understand this, it's constant. So to have people that you can trust and rely upon, it actually helps them grow too.
And the more you're talking about that, absolutely. The more when I would hire someone that I knew I could trust, put them in a position where they would take that load off of me, it was a massive difference. Mm-hmm. Because then that would allow me to focus on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And when you have a business where your intention is to continually grow, the only way you're gonna, if you don't start building on a team and bringing more people into that.
He's got a smirk right now because he is the one that preaches to me every week how I need to grow my team.
She needs a team. It is hard to find the right people, especially in a business like Sierra's. It is hard to find the right people to put into the right places because one being your standards are very high. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
I'm sorry, I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be problematic at times, and I think you can admit that. It can be problematic at times because that's what then brings in the need for control in all areas. But you reach a point if you don't have a team that you can rely on, you reach a point where you will end up stagnant because you're at capacity.
I 100% understand that.
So that's where that team and we actually just went on an adventure right before this episode today, and the theme of the adventure, because we took Caleb to watch a movie. The theme
that
of
I picked, by the way. Today I chose the adventure.
She chose the adventure because I was under the impression that this was a work weekend, and then she springs on. She didn't even really spring it on me. She just told Caleb, "Hey, we're going on an adventure this weekend," and I went, "We are?"
Yeah, I know.
So she chose the adventure this week, but the theme of the movie was, do you remember?
The theme?
The theme of the movie.
You're putting me on the spot now.
What was the core theme of the movie?
I've already forgotten the movie.
Teamwork. Everything's better with a team, and how everyone in the team has a job and a place, and how you can't accomplish the goal without whole team.
Someone else. Yes, Sonic and his team.
Sonic the Hedgehog. This was Sonic 3.
Yeah, he called it the Sonic team at the beginning, but they ended as just the team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He gave up control.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, all of these things happened for a reason today. Yes, just so you guys know, it's not that I don't want to build a team because of my control issues. I actually have been building the business as a collaborative for a reason, and am continuing to expand upon that this year. So stay tuned for that.
But she has people in her life, me, who aren't going to let her just use the collaborative word as a crutch to prevent her from building a team. Because you tend to bring that up. Every time team's mentioned, you bring up, well, it's a collaborative. I don't need a team because I'm going to collaborate with others.
Yeah, they have their own businesses and have liability, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But a team that is solely
Sierra would like to
here,
have a family someday.
Not a bad idea.
Sierra would like to have a family someday.
That's another topic.
So all of this team talk, if you are someone who feels like you've reached a point where you are wearing all the hats and you might need to share some responsibility with some other people because you need to give up some control in order to grow your business, make sure that you're setting clear expectations. You are empowering them with the proper training, the proper resources, and going about that delegation process in a way that sets them up for success. And you celebrate those wins with them, and also take advantage of learning opportunities too. But I've been working really hard on reframing this word control. You don't know this. So what?
I'm waiting.
Well, I was listening to someone that you don't really like to listen to, but it helped me to understand the control thing.
Oh.
Grant.
Yeah.
Grant Cardone. Okay.
All I'll say is just call his team one time and go through a sales pitch and then tell me what you think.
Okay. Well, beyond that, we're not here to talk about Grant Cardone. But after listening to him, I was doing some reflection. And he was talking about how he does not like when people make excuses for why they are not achieving things, why they are not successful, blah, 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 blah. And I don't like excuses either. And it comes down to, I feel we have control over our choices. And in each situation, we can choose to take control of the things that we can to propel us forward, instead of just sitting here feeling sorry for ourselves and letting life happen. So I've been trying to think about, in this law of trade-off, that when I'm giving up control, I'm not giving up anything. I'm going to stop saying I'm giving up control. What am I gaining? Okay. So as I empower Erica to take on more things, what am I gaining? Right? I'm gaining time to really sit back and create a plan for the future of the business and determine, the 10-year plan. I'm gaining the opportunity to see things from a different perspective. So, and I encourage you to catch me when I say I'm giving up control. Stop saying I'm giving up something in this law of trade-offs. You're not giving up something, you are gaining something. So what are you gaining? So when I, quote unquote, would have said I gave up my teaching career, right? That's not what I did, right? I gained the opportunity to impact people outside of one classroom, or outside of one school district, and now I'm able to impact people around the world. So I gained something, right? When I gave up my Dunkin', right? I gained the ability to, my health got better, right? I lost weight. I was doing so much better, and I was saving money and able to pay off more debt. So that's really what I want people to think about based off of this episode is, what is that thing that you need to give up, that you've been holding on to, that you could pass on to someone else and start building that trust. Someone might be able to handle it better and faster than you even. We talk about outsourcing in our businesses, outsourcing marketing, for example. You were talking about social media marketing that you do through Social Drive, outsourcing something like that. Could I do it? Yes. But do I need to be the person that does the marketing? No. Someone else can do it better and faster than me. So why would I hold on to it? So what are those areas of your life or your business where someone could do it better, someone could do it faster, or you just don't even enjoy it? Right? There are plenty of those things too, where someone else might actually enjoy taking that thing on. So that's what I want people to reflect on based on our conversation.
And that's another one too, where communication with your team can be really helpful, because you might find that the things that you can't stand are things that other members of your team actually enjoy.
Yes. Yes, you want those responsibilities to be aligned with someone's strengths. You don't always get to see the strengths because you haven't allowed them the opportunity to show what they can do, right? You can find people can get stuck in this one role and really, and teams can be very siloed too. But once you allow them the opportunity to openly discuss the things they do and don't enjoy about their position, or things they see someone else doing that they'd like to take on. I've had, people switch responsibilities on a team and realize it's a better fit. Do you hear him singing out there?
I do.
It's beautiful. Beautiful singing, Caleb. Hi. Do you want to come say hi in this episode? You sure? Okay. The screen is frozen. He has informed us the screen is frozen. You didn't click anything, did you, buddy? No? You haven't touched anything? We're just going to hope for the best. So that's what I think the branching out challenge should be, is really considering beyond. Not everybody listening to this is a business owner, and you're someone that needs to give up a certain responsibility within the business. I'm also thinking other things that people could trade off. What is something that you're willing to give up in 2025 in order to choose something different and propel you forward towards your goals? That's what I want them to reflect on. What advice might you, Matthew, give someone that is maybe stuck and has trouble releasing responsibility to others? What advice would you give them? The big sigh.
When you start doing things like that, what do I tell you?
When I start doing what?
If you start going down a path where it's something that you maybe shouldn't do, whether it's you're thinking in a certain term, or you're getting anxious about something, what do I tell you?
I don't know. Obviously, I don't listen well enough.
Obviously.
What do you tell me?
Stop it.
You are referencing a skit. Go ahead. Tell them what you're referencing.
I think it's Bob Newhart.
Is it slowly coming back to you?
It's
Bob
slowly coming
Newhart.
back.
Stop it. Yeah. Search.
And as this person's telling their whole life story and their traumas and all of their issues, his only advice is, well, stop it.
But it's really funny. He's right. It's funny. And it does make me laugh when I'm like spiraling out of control and he just goes, well, just stop it.
Other than that, it's find someone who you trust.
Yeah.
And talk with them about it, and be willing to release control with that person that you trust. And when you find yourself getting worked up or like you're needing to take control, It is. You stop, take a breath, remember that this is someone that you trust, and that they're there to help you. Beyond that, if it's truly a problem, then it's not a bad idea to go talk with a professional to help you through the anxieties that are associated with that, because control can be a good thing, but too much control is a bad thing.
Yeah. I was thinking while you were saying that, because, I like making lists and all.
Yeah.
Like, make a list of what can I be the person that can, like, what only can I do? No one else can do. These are the aspects of my business I never want to give up because it's the thing I'm most passionate about, or it's the thing, I'm casting this vision for the business and I want to make sure I stay on track, on course for this vision, and I'm only going to surround myself with people who can support that vision, right? But what are the things only I can do versus these are things anyone can do? Or these are things that people with this background or this experience could also do. It doesn't have to be me. I would make that list, and it's kind of the non-negotiables of I can give up anything but these things.
But if you're going to make that list...
You have a problem with my list?
If you're going to make that list, you need to make sure that you are being brutally honest with yourself. Because there's plenty of people who think I'm the only one that can do this, and that's just not true.
Yeah, well, and there's a difference between I'm the only one that can do it versus I'm the only one that can do it to this level. You know what I'm saying? At this standard. So I was just thinking about that too. I don't think the things that I've had trouble giving up before, I don't think it was that I didn't think other people could do it. I wasn't sure if they could do it to my standard, and I didn't want to feel like I was being constantly critical of someone. So that's what caused challenges before. Okay. I want to end with this because it's all about the law of trade-offs, and we focused a lot on the control aspect. But is there something in the past that you feel like you had a trade-off? You had to give up something in order to gain something long-term? I'm putting you on the spot. I know this whole episode was on the spot for you. Good job, by the way.
The whole thing was, and I am a little disappointed that you did not start this one out the way you always do.
What do I start with?
What's the first question you asked everybody? I was ready. I already had that answer picked out.
Okay, we'll end with it in just a moment.
I'll answer.
You threw me off.
I mean, I traded a good career as a firefighter for the freedom to be a business owner. Sometimes I feel like that was a good trade. Other days I feel like that was a really bad trade.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot, and there were a lot of lessons from the fire service that carried over into the business world that I never would have thought of before. It allowed me to reflect on many things and realize, oh, so this is why this captain was that way, or that battalion chief was that way. It wasn't that they were just a jerk. It was that's how
sense.
they handled it that way for a reason. And fortunately, I've had the opportunity to go back and talk with at least some of them, some of the ones that made the most impact on me, and thank them for that. In fact,
that's good.
One of my early bosses, who sometime in between working for my grandfather in the fire department, I worked for a landscaping company. And I actually got to talk with my former boss at one point and go, I'm so sorry, because I assumed a lot of things when I worked here of, well, why isn't he out in the field? I don't understand this. He's just sending us out, so we're doing the hard work. I get it now. And so it was nice to be able to talk with him, and he was a boss that I really,
Mm-hmm.
I really did have a lot of respect for, still do. But it was just good to be able to go back and have that conversation. So the trade-offs there's everything in life has some sort of trade-off.
Yeah, exactly. You
every
have to give up.
every decision that you make is some form of trade-off.
Agreed. If we decide to keep talking here, we might trade off no dinner tonight.
This is true. Can we wrap this up, even though you still didn't ask me first?
I'm going to.
Okay.
Do you guys see how impatient this man is? Goodness
Impatient.
gracious.
This man has the patience of Job.
Okay. When did you first see yourself as a leader, Matthew?
Let's see. Boy, I wasn't prepared for this
Oh,
question.
stop it.
I'll have to think about that for a minute.
Oh, my gosh.
I first saw him. I unfortunately, I have to agree with Erica here in that.
You agree with Erica? Hold on. I'm glad this is being recorded.
Maybe not agree, but I have to. My answer is similar to Erica's in that I pretty much feel like I've always felt like a leader in one way, shape, or form. I remember in kindergarten, the girls in my class decided they were going to form their own little group and call themselves the fairies. There was their own little gang. They were the fairies. Well, I couldn't let that stand. And so me and my one friend got together, got a bunch of the other boys in our kindergarten class together, and we decided we were going to create our own gang called the Bulldogs. So it was always the Bulldogs versus the fairies. And I think that continued on until second grade or so. But there's always been a sense of I've always wanted to be in charge of things. That's always been a good thing and a bad thing. But one of the things that has been helpful in that is that decision making in a moment's notice. And some of that is I was born with that. Some of that was the fire service, but that in a moment's notice when the stuff hits the fan, being able to take command of the situation and say, this is where I'm going to go, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's at least some sort of direction in that moment. And so, yeah, I think that there's always been a little bit of that.
Okay, I can see that. I can definitely.
You can see that?
I can definitely see that. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
I thought I hid that pretty well.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for being on here. You're going to be working really hard on the upcoming weekend because we have the retreat, and Matthew does all the AV stuff for the retreat. So he helps me with the podcast. He does that. He helps with social media. Do you want to say anything about Social Drive? Why is there always a big sigh before you speak?
This is my...
Do I exhaust you?
For those of you who don't...
I said don't answer that.
Don't answer that. See, this is... is that your control?
Would you like to say anything about Social Drive, sir?
Sure. Everyone should check it out if you're looking for assistance in your social media. Social Drive is designed to assist small businesses. It's a really great tool. Sierra uses it. She can attest to that. And if you want to know more, please reach out. I'd be happy to talk to you because it's one of those. Social Drive is something where it's a lot easier to have that conversation one-on-one. And I'd much rather build that relationship with somebody one-on-one, show them the platform and why it's really cool and saves you a lot of time. So
it sure does. And because he's like not sharing a ton, running his lawn care and landscaping business, of course, there was a social media presence that was needed. And I feel like that's where you started to really get into it and realize you're pretty good at it too. But the importance of being able to schedule posts and make sure that you aren't always doing things on the fly, but instead can plan and post in advance. Also, the using the material over again so that not everybody sees everything that you post. It's not always going to show up on their news feed. So recycling old material, yes, it's super useful.
It's multi-layered, and there's a lot more to the strategy side, but that's where a lot of times if social media is a pain point for you, you're a small business looking for a solution that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Yeah. That's the whole reason why I started Social Drive. It was to I like working with small businesses, and I like that it's a inexpensive solution that is as good of a tool as the big names.
So where can they find you?
socialdrivemedia.com.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you in advance for all the work that you're going to do this upcoming week or weekend. Isn't he so funny? Thank you guys for joining till the end of the episode. I hope you found value in today. I just really want you to consider what is it that maybe you've been hanging on to that it's time to give up control of, or is there a trade-off that needs to take place in your life that you need to be really intentional about? Is there something that you could give up right now in the short term in order to aid in your efforts to reach your long-term vision, no matter what area of life we're talking about? As always, you can find these episodes on all sorts of different platforms, but they roll out on Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time. You can check us out at branchingoutpodcast.com. There's plenty of information on there. And if you are interested in being a guest, you can scroll all the way to the bottom and certainly apply. And Matthew will be the one that screens and determines who joins. He did not screen himself, by the way. That's interesting. I don't know if he would have made the cut.
Considering I didn't know... actually, that's a good point. I didn't apply, and I didn't know that I was supposed to be on here. I just
told him, yes. Look at me. I feel like it's from being around you. It's from being around Jay, flying by the seat of his pants sometimes, right? You high eyes, rubbing off on me, where now I can just make a decision on the spot. Look at that.
And for those of you who are interested in getting on the podcast, as she said, go to the website, scroll to the bottom, fill out the form. I am the one who screens those. So getting on or not is up to me, and I am not above bribery. So just letting you know.
Oh, my goodness. He's not understanding that his time to talk was over. All right. Thanks again for sticking with us for this episode. We hope that it was recording, because according to Caleb, it wasn't. He's sitting out there right now with his hands over his sides like this. I think he can't wait for dinner. That's what's going on. All right. Thank you guys for your support. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Until next time, keep ranching.